A waitress asked a stranger to pretend to hug her, unaware he was a feared mafia boss whose arms would change her life forever. One word for how you feel today. Drop it below. Like plus subscribe to join hearts like yours. Emma Tyler glanced at the wall clock for the 5th time in 10 minutes. 2 more hours until her shift ended at Bellissimo, Chicago's most exclusive Italian restaurant. Her feet ached, but the prospect of substantial tips kept her moving efficiently between tables. "Order up for table 12, Marco called from the kitchen. Emma balanced the tray of steaming pasta dishes, navigating through the dimly lit dining room with practiced grace. The restaurant's atmosphere was deliberately intimate, rich mahogany panels, low lighting, and secluded booths that offered privacy to guests who could afford it. She felt it again. That uncomfortable prickling sensation of being watched. Slowly, Emma turned toward the source. Table 15. 3rd night this week. The man's eyes never left her, following her movements with an intensity that made her skin crawl. He'd requested her section specifically, according to her manager. Left generous tips, but stayed too long, asked too many personal questions. As she pushed through the swinging kitchen door, Elena, another waitress, grabbed her arm. "He's asking for you again, 3rd time tonight." Emma suppressed a groan. "Can't you tell him I'm busy?" "I tried. He insists it has to be you." Elena's expression turned sympathetic. "Want me to get Marco to step in?" "No," Emma sighed. Tips from this job were putting her through nursing school. "I'll handle it." When she approached table 15, the man's face lit up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Finally." "I was beginning to think you were avoiding me, Emma." The way he said her name like he owned it made her stomach twist. "Is there something wrong with your meal, sir?" "Everything's perfect when you're here." He reached for her wrist. "I was thinking, when do you finish tonight? I'd like to continue our conversation somewhere more private." Emma stepped back. "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't socialize with customers. House policy." His smile hardened. "Policies can be broken. I'll wait for you outside." "That won't be necessary. I insist." His fingers drummed against the table. "I know which bus you take home." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. She hadn't told him anything about her commute. Before she could respond, the restaurant's atmosphere shifted. A strange hush fell over the normally bustling dining room. Heads turned subtly, conversations dimmed. Even the soft, classical music seemed to fade into the background. The maitre d' moved with unusual haste toward the entrance. Emma followed his gaze to the man who had just entered. He stood in the doorway like he owned not just the restaurant, but the very ground it was built upon. Tall, with broad shoulders accentuated by an impeccably tailored black suit. Dark hair swept back from a face that might have been sculpted from marble. But it was his eyes that commanded attention. Dark, intense, missing nothing. 2 men flanked him, their stances alert despite their casual appearance. The maitre d' nearly bowed as he greeted the newcomer, gesturing toward a secluded corner booth that Emma knew was always kept reserved, yet rarely occupied. "Who is that?" she whispered to a passing server. The young man looked at her like she'd asked who the president was. "That's Mr. Castellano," he muttered under his breath. "Don't make eye contact unless he speaks to you first." Emma watched as Mr. Castellano moved through the restaurant. He acknowledged no one, yet everyone acknowledged him. With nods, with averted eyes, with a palpable mixture of respect and fear. "Mr. Castellano's usual," the maitre d' murmured as he passed Emma. "Take it yourself." And Emma. His voice dropped even lower. "Perfection only. Understand?" Nodding, Emma retreated to the bar where the bartender was already preparing a tumbler of amber liquid. "No ice," she noted. The bartender's hands trembled slightly as he placed it on her tray. She placed the drink on the table with a steady hand. "Your whiskey, Mr. Castellano. Will you be dining tonight as well?" Up close, he was even more imposing. A subtle scent of expensive cologne mingled with something darker, more dangerous. His fingers, bearing a heavy gold ring, traced the rim of the glass. "Just the drink for now," he replied, his voice a low rumble that somehow carried authority without volume. Emma nodded and turned to leave, but the movement brought her face to face with her problematic customer from table 15, who had risen and was now watching Mr. Castellano with a strange expression. Their eyes met, and Emma felt a chill as the man smirked and mouthed, "Later." For the next hour, Emma worked methodically, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread about her stalker's promised wait outside. Approaching Elena during a lull, she whispered, "Can you walk me to the bus stop tonight?" "Can't, sweetie. I'm closing." Elena squeezed her arm. "Is it that guy again? Table 15? Emma nodded. "He said he knows which bus I take home." "Shit, that's creepy." Elena frowned. "Ask Marco to call you a taxi? On my budget?" Emma sighed. "I'll figure something out." As closing time approached, Emma's anxiety peaked when she noticed table 15 was empty. The man had left without her noticing. She peered through the blinds at the darkened street, spotting a figure leaning against a lamppost directly across from the employee exit. Her heart sank. There he was, checking his watch, waiting. Emma's mind raced through her options. The bus stop was 3 blocks away, too far to make a run for it. She had pepper spray in her bag, but the thought of using it, and what might happen if it failed, made her stomach clench. A movement in her peripheral vision caught her attention. Mr. Castellano was preparing to leave, his bodyguards already alerting the valet. Without allowing herself time to reconsider, Emma approached his table. "Excuse me, Mr. Castellano," she said quietly, heart hammering in her chest. Dark eyes fixed on her with laser-like intensity. "Yes?" Emma swallowed hard. "I have an unusual favor to ask. There's a man outside waiting for me and he's been—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. Persistent. Unwantedly persistent. "If I could just walk out with you, pretend we're together for just a moment." A long silence stretched between them. His expression remained unreadable, those dark eyes seeming to peer straight through her. Then, to her shock, he stood. "What's your name?" "Emma Tyler." "Well, Emma Tyler," he said, buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate precision. "It seems you need a favor, and in my experience, nothing in this world is free." Her mouth went dry. "I don't have much money." A flicker of amusement crossed his face. "I wasn't talking about money." He adjusted his cuffs. "Let's go. Stay close." As they approached the exit, one of his men opened the door. The cool night air hit Emma's face, and she instinctively moved closer to the imposing man beside her. Across the street, her stalker straightened, eyes narrowing as he took in the unexpected development. Without warning, Mr. Castellano's arm slid around her waist, pulling her firmly against his side. The warmth of his body contrasted with the night chill, and Emma felt her pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with fear of her stalker. "Laugh," he commanded quietly. "Look at me like I'm saying something amusing." Emma complied, tilting her head back with a convincing laugh, meeting those dark eyes. For a moment, everything else faded, the street, the danger, the city itself. "My car is approaching," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "Is he still watching?" Emma glanced discreetly. "Yes." "He looks angry." "Good." His grip tightened fractionally as a sleek black car pulled to the curb. "Get in." Emma hesitated. "I just needed to—" "Get in, Miss Tyler." His tone left no room for argument. "Unless you'd prefer to handle your admirer alone." The stalker had started crossing the street toward them. Decision made, Emma slid into the luxurious interior of the car, Mr. Castellano following smoothly behind her. As the car pulled away, Emma caught a glimpse of her stalker's frustrated face through the tinted window. Relief washed over her, followed immediately by a new concern. She was now alone in a car with a man who made hardened servers tremble. "Where do you live?" he asked, creating distance between them now that they were no longer performing. Lincoln Park, she answered cautiously. But you can drop me at any safe address. It wasn't a request. Emma provided it, watching as he relayed it to the driver through an intercom. The car moved smoothly through Chicago's streets, its interior silent, save for the soft hum of the engine. Thank you, she finally said, for helping me. Mr. Castellano studied her with that same inscrutable expression. As I said, favors aren't free, Emma Tyler. What do you want? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Nothing yet. But someday, I'll ask for something in return. And when I do, remember tonight. The car slowed to a stop outside her apartment building. Before she could reach for the door, he added, That man won't bother you again. Something in his tone sent a shiver down Emma's spine. Not entirely unpleasant. How can you be sure? Because, he said simply, no one takes what belongs to Dominic Castellano. The implication hung in the air between them. Emma wasn't sure if she should feel protected or claimed, or why either possibility made her breath catch. She stepped from the car onto the familiar sidewalk, turning back briefly. Good night, Mr. Castellano. Dominic, he corrected, those dark eyes holding hers one last time. Sweet dreams, Emma. As the car pulled away, Emma stood rooted to the spot, heart racing. Something told her that her life had just changed irrevocably, with consequences she couldn't begin to imagine. Emma hadn't seen her stalker in the 2 weeks since that night. Not at the restaurant, not at her bus stop, not lurking near her apartment. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. And while she was relieved, a persistent question nagged at her. What exactly had Dominic Castellano done to make him disappear? She'd asked around discreetly about her mysterious rescuer. The responses ranged from nervous silence to vague warnings to, forget you ever met him. One thing became clear. Dominic Castellano was not a man whose name people spoke freely. Tonight, Bellissimo was busier than usual. Emma moved efficiently between tables, her tray balanced expertly as she delivered drinks to a party of executives. As she turned from their table, she nearly collided with Elena. He's back, Elena whispered, eyes wide. Corner booth. Emma's heart stuttered. For a terrifying moment, she thought her stalker had returned. But the direction of Elena's gaze told her exactly who he was. Mr. Castellano requested you specifically, Elena continued, an unmistakable note of curiosity in her voice. Marco's about to have a heart attack making sure his meal is perfect. Taking a steadying breath, Emma approached the corner booth. Dominic sat exactly as before, back to the wall, perfect view of the room, expression unreadable. His bodyguards occupied a nearby table, their attention split between their boss and the restaurant entrance. Good evening, Mr. Castellano, she said, proud of her steady voice. What can I get for you tonight? Dark eyes studied her face. I told you to call me Dominic. That would be unprofessional, Emma replied, surprised by her own boldness. A hint of amusement crossed his features. And yet you weren't concerned with professionalism when you asked me for a favor. Heat crept into Emma's cheeks. About that, thank you again. He hasn't been back. I know. The simple statement carried weight. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. Sit. It wasn't a request. Emma glanced around nervously. I'm working. Your manager won't object. His confidence bordered on arrogance, yet Emma couldn't deny the authority he projected. Sit, Emma, just for a moment. Reluctantly, she slid into the booth, acutely aware of the curious glances from her coworkers. Is this about that favor I owe you? Dominic took a slow sip of his whiskey, watching her over the rim of his glass. No, this is about seeing if the memory I've been carrying is accurate. Memory? Of you. His directness caught her off guard. Your laugh. The way your eyes change color in different light. I wanted to see if I'd exaggerated these things in my mind. Emma's pulse quickened. And? I hadn't. He set his glass down deliberately. If anything, my memory failed to do you justice. She should have been wary of such blatant charm. Instead, she found herself fighting a smile. Do lines like that usually work for you? For the first time, she saw genuine surprise in his expression, quickly replaced by something like appreciation. You're either very brave or very foolish to speak to me this way. Maybe both, Emma admitted. Or maybe I just don't know enough about you to be appropriately intimidated. Something shifted in Dominic's eyes. A darkening, a warning. Perhaps that's for the best. A heavy silence fell between them. Emma became aware of the restaurant's ambient sounds, clinking glasses, murmured conversations, the subtle notes of classical music. All of it seemed distant compared to the intensity of the man sitting across from her. Why did you help me that night? She finally asked. Dominic considered her question, tracing the rim of his glass with one finger. Initially? Curiosity. No one approaches me for favors. Not like that. Directly, fearlessly. I was desperate, not fearless, Emma corrected. Even so. He leaned forward slightly. But then I saw him waiting for you, and something shifted. Men who prey on women who've clearly rejected them. His expression hardened. Let's just say I have particular distaste for that kind of disrespect. Emma studied his face, searching for deception but finding none. That's almost chivalrous. A humorless smile touched his lips. Don't mistake selective principles for chivalry, Emma. I'm not a good man. The conviction in his voice sent a chill through her. Before she could respond, Marco appeared tableside, visibly nervous as he personally delivered Dominic's meal. Everything is prepared exactly as you prefer, Mr. Castellano, Marco assured him, barely glancing at Emma's unexpected presence in the booth. Dominic nodded dismissively, and Marco retreated with obvious relief. I should get back to work, Emma said, making no move to leave. You should, Dominic agreed, equally stationary. Their eyes held for a long moment. Emma was the first to break the connection, sliding out of the booth with as much composure as she could muster. Enjoy your meal, Mr. Castellano. Dominic, he corrected again, softer this time. Dominic, she conceded, the name feeling intimate on her tongue. As she returned to her other tables, Emma felt his gaze follow her movements. Throughout the remainder of her shift, she was acutely aware of his presence, as if the very air around her had become charged with electricity. When his table was finally empty, she found a crisp $100 bill tucked beneath his untouched dessert plate, along with a handwritten note. The memory keeps improving. The following morning, Emma's routine was interrupted by a knock at her apartment door. Cautious after her stalker experience, she peered through the peephole to find a courier holding a long, slender box. Delivery for Emma Tyler, he announced when she opened the door. I didn't order anything, she said, confused. It's already been paid for, ma'am. He handed her the box and a signature pad. Have a nice day. Alone in her kitchen, Emma carefully opened the package. Inside lay a single perfect red rose and a small card bearing elegant handwriting. Consider this a proper introduction. Dinner tonight? I'll send a car. D.C. Emma stared at the card, pulse racing. This was madness. She knew nothing about this man except that he commanded fear and respect in equal measure, that he'd made her stalker disappear without explanation, that he exuded danger from every pore. She should refuse. Call the restaurant, leave a message, say she was busy, uninterested, unavailable. Instead, she found herself reaching for her phone, sending a text to the number included on the card. What time? The response came immediately. 7:00. Wear something nice. Emma set down her phone, equal parts exhilarated and terrified by what she'd just agreed to. She had classes until 4:00, giving her barely enough time to prepare. As she gathered her nursing textbooks, her phone chimed with another message. One more thing. What's your favorite color? The unexpectedly ordinary question made her smile. Blue. Why? Curiosity. At precisely 6:30, another delivery arrived. A stunning azure dress in exactly her size, with matching shoes and a delicate silver necklace. The accompanying note read simply, "In case you needed options." The presumption should have offended her. Instead, Emma found herself slipping into the dress, which fit as if made for her. The silk whispered against her skin as she twirled before the mirror, barely recognizing the elegant woman who stared back. At 7 sharp, her buzzer rang. Through the intercom, a driver announced his arrival. Emma grabbed her purse, hesitating at the door. There was still time to back out, to return to her safe, predictable life of double shifts and textbooks. Instead, she locked her apartment and descended to the waiting car. The vehicle glided through Chicago's evening traffic, eventually pulling up to a private entrance of what appeared to be an exclusive club. A doorman opened the car door and escorted Emma through a discreet entrance and into an elevator that required a key card. "Mr. Castellano is waiting for you," the doorman said as the elevator ascended silently. The doors opened onto a breathtaking rooftop restaurant. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Chicago's glittering skyline. Only a handful of tables occupied the space, each positioned for ultimate privacy. Dominic stood as she approached, his dark gaze traveling appreciatively over the blue dress before meeting her eyes. "You look stunning," he said simply. Up close, Emma could see subtle details she'd missed before. The faint scar above his right eyebrow, the intensity in his eyes that never quite disappeared even when he smiled, the way his perfectly tailored suit accentuated his powerful frame. "Thank you for the dress," she said as he held her chair. "Though you shouldn't have presumed I'd wear it." "I didn't." Dominic resumed his seat. "That's why I asked your favorite color. If you'd chosen not to wear it, that would have told me something important about you." "And what does my wearing it tell you?" A smile played at the corners of his mouth. "That you're practical, and perhaps a little curious about me too." A waiter appeared with champagne, pouring 2 glasses before retreating silently. Emma noticed that despite the restaurant's elegant ambiance, the staff kept a respectful, almost fearful distance from their table. "I realized," Dominic continued, "that I know very little about you beyond your name and where you work." "There isn't much to know," Emma replied, taking a sip of champagne. "I'm a nursing student. I work at Bellissimo to pay for school. I grew up in a small town outside Milwaukee. Not exactly fascinating." "I disagree." Dominic leaned forward, his full attention on her. "Nursing requires compassion, intelligence, and grit. 3 admirable qualities." The intensity of his focus made her both uncomfortable and strangely flattered. "Your turn. What should I know about you, Dominic Castellano?" Something guarded flickered across his features. "What do you want to know?" "Let's start with what you do," Emma suggested. "For a living." "I manage various business interests," he replied smoothly. "Real estate, primarily. Some investment ventures." "That's vague." "Deliberately so." His expression remained unreadable. "My work isn't conducive to dinner conversation." Emma studied him over the rim of her glass. "People seem afraid of you, at the restaurant, even here." "People fear what they don't understand." He held her gaze. "Or what they understand too well." Before Emma could respond, their first course arrived. Delicate seafood appetizers arranged like art on pristine white plates. The meal progressed through several exquisite courses, their conversation flowing more naturally with each passing minute. Emma found herself drawn to Dominic's sharp intelligence and unexpected flashes of dry humor. He listened intently when she spoke of her studies, asked thoughtful questions about her goals in medicine. "Why nursing?" he asked over dessert, a decadent chocolate creation that melted on her tongue. Emma hesitated. "My mother died when I was 15. Cancer." The familiar ache accompanied the words, duller now with time but never truly gone. The hospice nurses showed such kindness, such dignity. They couldn't save her, but they made her final days peaceful. I wanted to give that to others. Dominic's expression softened fractionally. Your mother would be proud. I hope so. Emma looked down at her dessert, suddenly self-conscious about revealing something so personal. What about your parents? Are they still— No. The single word carried finality. My father died when I was 12. My mother followed a few years later. I'm sorry. Dominic's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Don't be. My father's death was inevitable, given his choices. My mother's broken heart was the real tragedy. Something in his tone suggested deeper waters, currents of pain beneath the composed surface. Emma found herself wanting to reach across the table, to touch his hand in comfort. But something held her back, an invisible barrier around him that whispered, danger. As the evening drew to a close, Dominic insisted on driving her home personally. His car, a different one from before she noticed, was a sleek black Bentley with butter-soft leather seats. He dismissed his bodyguards with a subtle nod, taking the wheel himself. No driver tonight? Emma asked as they glided through the city streets. I prefer to drive when I can. His hands moved confidently on the wheel, the gold ring catching the passing streetlights. It provides a rare sense of control in a world where true control is largely illusion. The philosophical turn surprised her. That's rather fatalistic. Realistic, he corrected. We all play the hands we're dealt. Some better than others. They pulled up outside her apartment building, the engine purring quietly as they sat in unexpected silence. Emma made no move to leave immediately, sensing there was something unfinished between them. Thank you for dinner, she finally said. It was lovely. Dominic turned to face her, the dashboard lights casting shadows across his features. Before you go, Emma, I need to be clear about something. She waited, heart quickening at his serious tone. I'm interested in seeing you again, he continued, but I'm not a man who pursues casually. If we continue, you should know my attention is significant, all-encompassing, some might say. Emma swallowed. That sounds almost like a warning. It is. His dark eyes held hers. My world is complicated, dangerous at times. I can shield you from that to a degree, but not entirely. Why tell me this now? Because you deserve the choice. He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek with unexpected gentleness. While you can still make it freely. The touch sent electricity through her skin. You make it sound like crossing a point of no return. The corner of his mouth lifted in a humorless smile. Perceptive? Emma should have been frightened by his words. Instead, she found herself leaning slightly into his touch, drawn by the magnetism he exuded so effortlessly. I need to know something first, she said softly. That night, with the man who was stalking me. What happened to him? Dominic's hand fell away, his expression closing like a door slamming shut. He was persuaded to direct his attentions elsewhere. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting, he replied, his tone final. Some questions are better left unasked, Emma. The weight of unspoken truths hung between them. Emma knew she stood at a crossroads. The sensible path led away from this man and whatever darkness surrounded him. The other path. I have an early class tomorrow, she said finally, reaching for the door handle. But I'm free tomorrow evening. Surprise, then pleasure crossed Dominic's features. I'll send a car at 8. Emma stepped out into the cool night air, turning back one last time. Good night, Dominic. Sweet dreams, Emma, he replied, the words an echo of their first meeting. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made a decision far more momentous than simply agreeing to a second date. What exactly had Dominic meant about his world being dangerous? About his attention being all-encompassing? The following evening, Emma checked her appearance one last time before heading downstairs. The simple black dress she'd chosen felt inadequate after the stunning azure creation from the night before, but it was the best she owned. To her surprise, Dominic himself waited beside the Bentley, looking devastatingly handsome in a dark suit. He opened the passenger door with a smile that transformed his severe features. "I thought you were sending a driver," Emma said as she slid into the seat. "I wanted to see you sooner." The simple admission carried weight. Instead of one of Chicago's exclusive restaurants, Dominic drove them to the lakefront, where a private yacht awaited. Emma gaped at the sleek vessel, its deck illuminated with soft lighting. "Is this yours?" she asked as he helped her aboard. "One of my investments," he replied vaguely. A small crew greeted them respectfully before disappearing, leaving them alone as the yacht glided away from the dock. Chicago's skyline provided a breathtaking backdrop as they sipped champagne on the deck. "This is incredible," Emma admitted, watching the city lights shimmer on the dark water. Dominic watched her rather than the view, his gaze as tangible as a touch. "I wanted privacy for this conversation." Something in his tone made her pulse quicken. "That sounds ominous." "It's not meant to be." He set down his glass, moving closer. "But before this goes further, you should know who I am, Emma." She studied his serious expression. "I'm listening." Dominic's jaw tightened. "My family name is Castellano. It means something in Chicago. Has for generations." "In what way?" Emma asked, though a creeping certainty was already forming in her mind. "My grandfather came from Sicily in the 1940s, built an empire from nothing." His eyes never left hers, watching for her reaction. "Some call it organized crime. I prefer to think of it as alternative business." There it was, the confirmation of what part of her had suspected since that first night. Emma's mouth went dry. "You're saying you're—" "The head of the Castellano family. No pride, no shame. Simple fact. Some would call me a mafia boss, though I find the term reductive." Emma's mind raced, processing implications. The fear in people's eyes at the restaurant, the way her stalker had vanished without a trace, the bodyguards, the wealth, the power. "Say something," Dominic urged when her silence stretched too long. "Did you hurt him?" she finally asked. "The man who was stalking me." Dominic's expression hardened. "He's alive, if that's your concern, but he understands that his interest in you was unhealthy." "How can you be certain?" A dangerous smile curved his lips. "My reputation is persuasive." Emma moved to the railing, needing space, air. The city lights blurred as her thoughts tumbled over one another. She should be terrified, should demand to be taken back immediately. Instead, she felt a bewildering mix of emotions. Caution, certainly, but also a perverse thrill. "Why tell me now?" she asked without turning. She felt rather than heard him approach, his presence warm at her back. "Because I respect you too much to deceive you," Dominic answered, his voice low. "And because what I feel for you is unexpected, powerful. I don't enter relationships lightly, Emma." She turned to face him. "Relationships? We've had one dinner. And yet here we are." His eyes held hers. "Tell me you don't feel it too, this pull between us." "It's been there since the moment you asked for my help." Emma couldn't deny the attraction that hummed between them like a live wire. "Even if I do, this is complicated." "Life is complicated," he countered. "Mine more than most. But with complexity comes certain advantages." "Such as?" "Protection, security." His hand came up to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Devotion." The word hung in the air between them. Emma searched his eyes for deception but found only intensity, a burning focus directed solely at her. "You barely know me," she whispered. "I know enough." His thumb traced her jawline. "I know you're brave, intelligent, compassionate. I know you make me want things I haven't wanted in a very long time." Her breath caught. "What things?" "Connection," he admitted. "Something real in a world built on lies and appearances." The raw honesty in his voice touched something in Emma. She'd expected charm, perhaps manipulation, not this unexpected vulnerability. I should be running in the opposite direction, she said softly. Probably, Dominic agreed, a hint of that dangerous smile returning. Yet here you stand. I'm either very brave or very foolish. Both, he murmured, echoing their earlier conversation. His hand slid to the nape of her neck, warm and strong. May I kiss you, Emma Tyler? The formal request made her smile despite herself. You're asking permission? I thought Mafia bosses just took what they wanted. Something flashed in his eyes. Approval, perhaps. Not from you. Never from you. Emma's heart thundered in her chest as she made her decision. Yes. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through the penthouse windows, momentarily disoriented by the luxurious surroundings. For 3 nights, she'd slept in Dominic's bed, alone yet surrounded by reminders of him. His scent on the pillows, his clothes in the closet, his presence lingering in every corner of the space. Her phone chimed with a message. Morning, beautiful. 1 more day of meetings, then home to you. Anthony will drive you to class. Don't argue. Emma smiled despite herself, typing back, Good morning. Already missing you. And I can take the bus. The response came immediately. Humor me, please. That please was what always undid her. For a man accustomed to commanding, Dominic's occasional vulnerability with her, those small moments when he asked rather than directed, never failed to touch something deep within her. Fine, but only because you said please, she conceded. After showering in his ridiculously opulent bathroom, Emma dressed for class, gathering her textbooks and notes. She'd fallen into a strange routine these past 3 days. Classes during the day, evenings spent in Dominic's penthouse. Anthony was waiting with the car when she emerged from the building. Good morning, Miss Tyler. To the university? Please. Emma slid into the back seat, noticing Anthony seemed more alert than usual, his gaze constantly scanning their surroundings. Is everything all right? His expression remained professionally neutral. Just doing my job, Miss Tyler. The evasive answer triggered an uneasiness that had been building since Elena's warnings. Emma studied Anthony's profile as he drove. Anthony, how long have you worked for Dominic? 8 years, Miss Tyler. You must know him well. Anthony's eyes met hers briefly in the rearview mirror. Mr. Castellano is a private man. That's not an answer, Emma pressed gently. A hint of a smile touched Anthony's normally stoic face. No, it's not. After a pause, he added, He's a good employer, fair, loyal to those who are loyal to him. And those who aren't? The question slipped out before Emma could stop it. Anthony's expression closed again. I wouldn't know, Miss Tyler. I've never given him reason to question my loyalty. As they pulled up to the university campus, Emma caught sight of a dark sedan parked across the street. Something about it raised goosebumps on her arms. It seemed out of place, its windows tinted too dark to see inside. Anthony followed her gaze, his posture subtly shifting. Go to class, Miss Tyler. I'll be here at 4. The warning in his tone was unmistakable. Emma hurried into the building, unsettled by the exchange. Throughout her lectures, she found herself distracted, gaze repeatedly drawn to the windows, searching for the mysterious sedan. By the time her final class ended, Emma had nearly convinced herself she was being paranoid. Elena's warnings had made her jumpy, seeing threats where none existed. Anthony waited precisely where he'd left her, opening the car door as she approached. Directly to the penthouse, Miss Tyler. Actually, I need to stop by my apartment first, she decided. Pick up some more clothes. As they neared her apartment building, Emma's uneasiness returned. Anthony's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his normally impassive face tight with concentration. Anthony, what's going on? She demanded. And please don't tell me nothing. He hesitated, clearly weighing his response. Mr. Castellano asked me to be particularly vigilant while he's away. Why? Is there some specific threat? Another hesitation. It's just a precaution, Miss Tyler. Anthony insisted on accompanying her into the building, waiting in the hallway as she packed additional clothes. Emma moved around her small apartment, the space feeling strangely unfamiliar after just days in Dominic's penthouse. As she zipped her bag, her phone finally chimed with Dominic's message. Meeting running longer than expected. Maybe late tonight. Don't wait up. Emma frowned at the uncharacteristically brief text. Normally, his messages were more attentive, more personal. This felt rushed, almost dismissive. Everything okay? She wrote back. The response took several minutes. Fine. Just business. Call you when I can. Something about his tone, even through text, felt off. Combined with Anthony's unusual vigilance, Emma's anxiety climbed another notch. When they returned to the car, Anthony opened the trunk to stow her bag. Emma froze at the sight of what lay inside, a sleek black case that could only contain a weapon, and what appeared to be a bulletproof vest partially covered by a blanket. Anthony quickly closed the trunk, his expression giving nothing away. Ready, Miss Tyler? The drive back to Dominic's penthouse passed in tense silence. As they approached the Gold Coast, Anthony suddenly cursed under his breath, eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. What is it? Emma twisted in her seat, looking behind them. Nothing to worry about, Anthony replied, his calm tone belied by the way he accelerated through a yellow light. Just taking a different route. Emma caught a glimpse of a dark sedan several cars back, similar to the one she'd seen near campus. Are we being followed? Anthony's silence was answer enough. He made a series of turns, his movements precise but urgent. The sedan stayed with them, maintaining a consistent distance. Miss Tyler, Anthony said evenly, when we reach the building, I want you to go directly inside. Don't stop, don't look back, understood? Fear tightened her throat. Anthony, you're scaring me. It's just a precaution, he repeated, though the tension in his voice betrayed him. When they pulled up to Dominic's building, Anthony scanned the street before opening her door. Quickly now. Emma hurried toward the entrance, heart hammering in her chest. The doorman nodded respectfully as she passed, giving no indication that anything was amiss. Inside the private elevator, Emma leaned against the wall, trying to calm her racing pulse. Was she overreacting? Maybe Anthony was simply being cautious, following Dominic's orders to protect her. But from what? From whom? The penthouse was silent and dimly lit when she entered. Emma moved through the space, setting her bag in the bedroom. His scent lingered on the pillows, expensive cologne with undertones of something uniquely him. She wandered into the kitchen, finding a note propped against a wine bottle. Made sure the fridge was stocked. Help yourself to anything. Call if you need me, anytime, day or night. Miss you. D. The thoughtfulness of the gesture made her smile despite her troubled thoughts. Emma opened the refrigerator to find it filled with her favorite foods, fresh berries, Greek yogurt, the specialty bread she'd mentioned liking from a bakery across town. After eating, she wandered the penthouse, seeing it with new eyes. The lack of personal touches struck her again. No family photos, no mementos. In his home office, Emma hesitated at the threshold. She'd never entered this room before. Dominic always kept the door closed. Now it stood ajar, inviting exploration. The office was immaculate, everything in its place. A large desk dominated the space, its surface clear except for a closed laptop and a single framed photograph. Curious, Emma approached, lifting the frame to examine the image. A much younger Dominic stood beside an older woman with the same dark eyes and proud bearing. His mother, perhaps. They were posed before what appeared to be a villa somewhere Mediterranean, sunshine glinting off whitewashed walls. Emma replaced the photo carefully, attention drawn to a bookshelf containing leather-bound volumes and what appeared to be financial records. Nothing incriminating, nothing to confirm or deny Elena's accusations. What had she expected? A ledger of illegal activities? Photographs of enemies? The mundanity of the space was almost disappointing. As she turned to leave, Emma's hip bumped the desk, jostling a drawer that hadn't been fully closed. It slid open to reveal a handgun nestled in a custom holder. Her breath caught. The weapon's presence shouldn't have shocked her. Dominic had never pretended to be anything other than what he was. Yet seeing tangible evidence of the danger that surrounded him made everything suddenly, viscerally real. Emma closed the drawer quickly, heart racing. She retreated to the bedroom, changing into the silk pajamas Dominic had given her last week. As she slipped between the sheets, his scent enveloped her, both comforting and confusing. Her phone lit up with a message. Just landed in New York. Are you at the penthouse? Emma hesitated before responding. Yes, in bed already, long day. Everything okay? You seem distant. Even through text, he could read her mood. Emma stared at the ceiling, considering how to respond. She could share Elena's warnings, confront him directly. But what would that accomplish? He'd never hidden who he was. Just tired, she replied finally. Missing you. The response came quickly. I'll be home as soon as I can. Sweet dreams, Emma. Home. The word caught her attention. This penthouse was his home, and he'd given her the key, invited her into his space, his life. Despite what she'd learned today, despite the gun in the drawer, Emma couldn't deny that she was falling for Dominic Castellano. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, she found herself touching the gold key that rested against her chest, a tangible symbol of the choice she'd already made. Emma's sleep was restless, filled with fragmented dreams of dark sedans and shadowy figures. She woke to the sound of her phone ringing, Dominic's ringtone. Hello? She answered groggily. Did I wake you? His voice was low, tense in a way she hadn't heard before. Emma glanced at the clock, 2:17 a.m. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything's fine. The forced casualness in his tone raised immediate alarm bells. I just wanted to check in. Dominic? Emma sat up, fully awake now. You're calling me at 2 in the morning. Clearly something isn't fine. A long pause, then. There's been a complication with business. Nothing for you to worry about, but I need to stay in New York longer than expected. Does this have anything to do with the car that was following us yesterday? Another pause, longer this time. What car? Anthony noticed someone following us after he picked me up from class, Emma explained. A dark sedan. He seemed concerned. Dominic's voice hardened. He told you this? No, but I'm not blind. Emma pulled her knees to her chest, suddenly cold despite the warm bedroom. What's going on, Dominic? Anthony has a gun in the trunk, along with what looked like a bulletproof vest. Emma, listen to me very carefully. All pretense of casual conversation vanished from his voice. I need you to pack a bag, just essentials. Anthony will take you somewhere safe. What? No, I have classes tomorrow. This isn't negotiable. The sharpness in his tone silenced her protest. I'm sending additional security to the building right now. Stay inside until Anthony calls to say they've arrived. Fear constricted Emma's throat. You're scaring me. His voice softened marginally. I know, and I'm sorry. But I need you to trust me right now. Can you do that? Yes. The word came automatically, surprising her with its certainty. Good. Relief colored his tone. I'll explain everything when this is resolved, I promise. For now, just know that I would never let anything happen to you. The line went dead before Emma could respond. She sat frozen for a moment, processing the implications of the call. Then, mechanically, she rose and began gathering essentials. A change of clothes, toiletries, her nursing textbooks, phone charger. Her hands trembled slightly as she zipped the bag. What exactly had she gotten herself into? 1 minute she'd been an ordinary nursing student. The next, she was packing a go bag in the middle of the night because of some unspecified danger. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Security in place. Coming up to escort you. Anthony. Moments later, the elevator chimed. Emma peered through the peephole to see Anthony standing in the hallway, accompanied by two grim-faced men she didn't recognize. "Miss Tyler," Anthony nodded as she opened the door. "We need to move quickly. These are associates of Mr. Castellano, Marco and Vincent." The men nodded curtly but said nothing. Both wore suits that did little to disguise their muscular builds, and Emma had no doubt they were armed. "Where are we going?" she asked, clutching her bag. "Somewhere secure," Anthony replied, taking her bag. "Mr. Castellano's instructions." The trip from the penthouse to the garage was tense, silent. Emma found herself sandwiched between Marco and Vincent in the elevator, while Anthony stood vigilantly at the front. Their expressions revealed nothing, but their alertness was palpable. In the garage, Anthony led them to a different vehicle than the Bentley, a nondescript black SUV with tinted windows. Marco took the wheel while Vincent slid into the passenger seat, leaving Anthony to sit beside Emma in the back. "I'll explain what I can once we're underway," Anthony said quietly as the SUV pulled out of the garage. Emma nodded, too overwhelmed to press for answers yet. The streets of Chicago were nearly empty at this hour, allowing them to move swiftly through the city. Emma noticed they took a circuitous route, doubling back several times before heading north. "We're being followed again, aren't we?" she finally asked, keeping her voice low. Anthony glanced at her with what might have been approval. "Not anymore. But yes, there was a vehicle tracking our movements earlier." "Who are they? What do they want?" "It's complicated." Anthony's expression remained stoic. "There's been a territorial dispute with another organization. Mr. Castellano was in New York negotiating a resolution." "And it didn't go well?" "Let's just say that diplomacy failed." Anthony's jaw tightened. The Rossi family apparently decided to apply pressure through alternative means. Emma's stomach dropped. I'm the pressure point." "You're important to Mr. Castellano," Anthony confirmed. "That makes you valuable leverage in their eyes." The clinical way he described it sent a chill through Emma. "And that's why we're running in the middle of the night? Because these people want to— what? Kidnap me? Hurt me?" "Mr. Castellano isn't taking chances with your safety." Anthony's tone softened fractionally. "For what it's worth, I've never seen him like this about anyone before." Emma absorbed this in silence, watching the city give way to suburbs, then to more rural landscapes as they continued north. After nearly 2 hours of driving, they turned onto a private road that wound through dense woods. Eventually, the trees opened to reveal a stunning lake house. Modern architecture of glass and stone perched on the shore of what appeared to be a private lake. Security lights illuminated the property, and Emma could make out cameras mounted discreetly along the roofline. One of Mr. Castellano's properties, Anthony explained as they pulled up to the front entrance. Remote, secure, and unknown to most of his associates. The interior of the lake house was surprisingly warm and inviting, less sterile than the penthouse, with comfortable furnishings and a large stone fireplace. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the lake, though in the darkness Emma could see only the reflection of the room behind them. "There's a bedroom prepared for you upstairs," Anthony said, setting down her bag. "Try to get some rest. Marco and Vincent will patrol the grounds. I'll be in the security room monitoring the perimeter." "When will Dominic be here?" "As soon as he can. He's making arrangements to return from New York immediately." Left alone, Emma wandered the main floor of the lake house, too wired to sleep despite the late hour. The kitchen was fully stocked, much like the penthouse had been. She made herself tea, carrying it to the sofa that faced the windows. As the first hints of dawn lightened the eastern sky, Emma's phone chimed with a message from Dominic. "Boarding private flight now. We'll be there in a few hours. Are you safe?" "Yes," she responded. "At your lake house with Anthony, Marco, and Vincent. It's beautiful here." "I'm sorry about all this," came his swift reply. "Not how I wanted to introduce you to that property." Emma smiled faintly. "I'm starting to wonder how many homes you have tucked away. Enough to keep you safe no matter what. Try to rest. I'll be there soon." Despite her exhaustion, Emma found herself unable to sleep. She showered and changed, then explored the house more thoroughly in the growing daylight. Unlike the penthouse, this place contained personal touches, books that appeared well-read, a collection of vintage jazz records, even a few framed photographs. One in particular caught her attention, a younger Dominic standing on the dock visible from the window, his arm around a teenage boy who shared his dark eyes and strong features. A nephew, perhaps? Dominic had never mentioned family beyond his deceased parents. Emma was studying the photograph when the sound of an approaching helicopter broke the morning stillness. Setting down the frame, she moved to the windows in time to see a sleek black chopper descending onto a pad near the lake. Her heart raced as a familiar figure emerged from the helicopter, ducking under the still spinning rotors. Dominic looked different, his usual impeccable appearance replaced by rumpled clothes and visible exhaustion. But his stride was purposeful as he approached the house, flanked by two men she didn't recognize. Emma met him at the door, relief washing over her at the sight of him. Without a word, Dominic pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. She felt the rapid beat of his heart, the tension in his muscles, the way his hand cradled the back of her head, as if she were something infinitely precious. "Are you all right?" he murmured against her hair. "I'm fine," she assured him, pulling back enough to study his face. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and a faint bruise was developing along his jaw. "You're not." Dominic's expression hardened. "Nothing that won't heal." He gestured to the men behind him. "This is Salvatore and Leo. They'll be joining the security detail." The men nodded respectfully to Emma before moving past to confer with Anthony. "Come," Dominic said, taking her hand and leading her through the house to a private study. Once inside, he closed the door, his shoulders sagging slightly as if a weight had been temporarily set down. "I owe you an explanation," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Several, I think." Emma crossed her arms, studying him. "Starting with why people are following me and why I had to flee your penthouse in the middle of the night." Dominic sighed, gesturing for her to sit while he poured 2 drinks from a decanter. "The Rossi family controls territory north of the city. For generations, there's been an understanding between our organizations, respect for boundaries, collaboration when beneficial, non-interference otherwise." He handed her a glass, which Emma accepted automatically. What changed? "The old man died 6 months ago. His son, Carlo, took over." Dominic's expression darkened. "He's young, ambitious, reckless, began pushing into our territory, interfering with our operations. I went to New York to meet with mutual associates, hoping to negotiate a peaceful resolution." "It didn't work," Emma stated rather than asked. "No, Carlo refused to meet, sent intermediaries with insulting terms." Dominic's hand tightened around his glass. "When I declined, he escalated matters. By targeting me." Dominic's eyes snapped to hers, flashing with barely controlled fury. "Yes, his men have been watching you for days, gathering information. When it became clear they were planning to move against you, I had Anthony bring you here." Emma took a steadying breath. What exactly would they have done if they'd caught me? "Nothing pleasant." Dominic's voice was flat. "At minimum, used you as leverage to force concessions. At worst." He didn't finish the thought. "And now? Now we end this." The cold certainty in his tone sent a shiver down Emma's spine. "Not just for us. Carlo's recklessness threatens the stability we've maintained for decades. Peace benefits everyone." Emma set down her untouched drink. "By end this, you mean?" Dominic met her gaze directly. "I'm going to do whatever is necessary to ensure your safety and restore order. Beyond that, don't ask questions you don't want answers to, Emma." For 3 days, the lake house became a center of frenetic activity. Men Emma didn't recognize came and went, conferring with Dominic in his study behind closed doors. Security around the property doubled, then tripled. Anthony coordinated rotating patrols while Dominic spent hours on the phone, voice low and controlled. Emma observed it all with growing unease, feeling like a spectator in a play whose plot she only partially understood. Dominic was unfailingly gentle with her, but she couldn't miss the transformation that occurred when he stepped into his role as leader of the Castellano family. This was the man others feared: cold, calculating, ruthlessly efficient. He issued orders that were obeyed without question, made decisions that seemed to carry immense weight. Through it all, he kept Emma separate from his business, creating a bubble of normalcy within the storm. On the third morning, Emma woke to find Dominic's side of the bed empty. A note on his pillow simply read, "Had to go into the city. Back tonight. Stay at the house. Please." That please again, a vulnerability reserved only for her. Emma spent the day alternating between studying for an exam she would almost certainly miss and staring out at the lake, wondering what was happening in Chicago. Around sunset, she heard the distinctive sound of the helicopter returning. Relief flooded her as she hurried downstairs. Dominic entered the house alone, his expression unreadable, but his posture more relaxed than she'd seen in days. When he caught sight of her, something in his face softened. "It's over," he said simply. Emma studied him carefully. "What happened?" "Carlo Rossi has experienced a change of heart." Dominic removed his jacket, revealing the gun holstered at his side, a stark reminder of his world. "He's agreed to respect traditional boundaries and will be taking an extended vacation to recover from his recent stress." The clinical way he described what had clearly been a confrontation sent a chill through Emma. Did anyone get hurt? No one innocent. Dominic's tone made it clear the subject was closed. Later that evening, after a quiet dinner on the terrace overlooking the lake, Dominic led Emma down to the private dock. The night was clear, stars reflected perfectly in the still water. "I'm sorry you were drawn into this," he said, breaking their comfortable silence. "It's exactly what I feared when we began." Emma leaned against the railing, considering her response. "When you warned me about your world being dangerous, I didn't fully understand what that meant. Now I do." "And?" The question hung between them, heavy with implication. "And I'm still here." She turned to face him, seeing vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior. "I made my choice, Dominic. I chose you, all of you, not just the parts that are easy to love." Something flashed in his eyes. Hope, perhaps. "You can still walk away. I would understand." "Would you let me?" The question had haunted her these past days. "Yes." No hesitation. "I told you from the beginning, I would never force you to stay. Your choice matters to me, Emma. Your freedom matters." The sincerity in his voice touched her deeply. This dangerous, powerful man who commanded fear and respect across the city was offering her complete autonomy. A gift she suspected few received from Dominic Castellano. "I don't want to walk away," she said softly. "These past days have been terrifying and confusing, but they've also shown me something important." "What's that?" "That the man I've come to care for, the one who remembers how I take my coffee and leaves notes on my pillow, isn't separate from the man who protects what's his. They're the same person." Emma stepped closer to him. "And I think I'm falling in love with both sides of you." Dominic's breath caught visibly. He reached for her, cupping her face with a gentleness that belied the strength in his hands. "I've been falling since the moment you asked me for a favor," he admitted, voice rough with emotion. "No one has ever seen me the way you do, Emma. No one has ever made me want to be worthy of being seen." "You are." She covered his hands with her own. "Worthy." His kiss was gentle at first, then deepening with an intensity that left her breathless. When they finally parted, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said simply. "More than I thought possible." Emma smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "I love you too." Later, as they lay tangled together in the master bedroom, Dominic traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "I've been thinking about the future," he said quietly. Oh? Emma propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face in the moonlight streaming through the windows. My world is violent, Emma. Dangerous. I've accepted that as the price of power. His dark eyes held hers. But I want something different for us. For you. What are you saying? Dominic sat up, suddenly serious. I've begun transferring our family's interests to legitimate businesses. Real estate, investment banking, hospitality. It will take time, but eventually the Castellano name could mean something different. Emma's breath caught. You'd do that? Change generations of tradition? For you? Without hesitation. He took her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. I want to give you a life where you don't have to wonder if I'll come home, where you don't need armed guards, where you can finish your nursing degree and help people the way you've always wanted. The magnitude of what he was offering struck Emma profoundly. This wasn't just a man saying he loved her. This was a man willing to transform his entire existence for her. Dominic, she whispered, emotion tightening her throat. I never asked you to change who you are. You didn't have to. His smile was soft, genuine. You made me want to be better simply by believing I could be. 6 months later, Emma stood in the doorway of Dominic's, their penthouse, watching him adjust his tie in the hallway mirror. He looked different somehow, still commanding, still powerful, but with a lightness that hadn't been there when they first met. Ready for your first day? She asked, approaching to straighten his already perfect tie. Dominic caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her engagement ring, a stunning sapphire that matched the blue dress from their first date. Ready to make the Castellano Foundation the most influential charitable organization in Chicago? Absolutely. The foundation had been his idea, a way to channel the family's resources into healthcare for underserved communities. Emma would join its board of directors after completing her nursing degree next month. The hospital administrator was practically giddy when you doubled the donation, Emma commented, retrieving her coat as they prepared to leave. Dominic's smile turned wry. Amazing how doors open when you have money and influence, regardless of where they came from. Speaking of influence, Emma said carefully, Elena mentioned that our stalker friend from the restaurant now works as a janitor in Alaska. Did she? Dominic's expression remained neutral. How interesting. Emma gave him a knowing look. Some habits die hard, I see. Only the useful ones. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. Some men only understand consequences. As they rode the elevator down to the lobby where Anthony waited with the car, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From that desperate request for help to this new life they were building together. Dominic still maintained certain aspects of his former power. Connections, respect, a reputation that opened doors. But day by day, he was channeling those resources into legitimate endeavors, creating a legacy they could both be proud of. What are you thinking about? Dominic asked, catching her thoughtful expression. Emma smiled up at him. About favors, and how sometimes the most dangerous ones turn out to be the most worthwhile. Dominic's laugh was warm as he drew her closer. I think I got the better end of that particular deal. We both did, Emma replied, leaning into his embrace. We both did. As they stepped out into the bright Chicago morning, Emma felt the gold key that still hung around her neck, a reminder of the moment she'd made her choice, a symbol of the trust that had grown between them, the beginning of their story. What had started as a desperate gamble in a darkened restaurant had transformed into something neither of them could have imagined, a love powerful enough to change not just their lives, but an entire empire. And Emma wouldn't have had it any other way.